Well,
No,
good morning. Okay. So, good morning to those of you, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. For those of you joining us this morning, we appreciate you waiting. I know I said this was going to start an hour ago, but we had severe technical issues to stumble through, including a phone that keeps overheating. So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our test run of a hopefully regularly recurring series where I will be joined by two of my fellow Furies, and we will be discussing War of the Roses thing, all War of the Roses, all the time, specifically in preparation for the upcoming first ever in America, the War of the Roses convention. And we have here today with us um, Adelheid, as I know her, from the Living History organization, of which we are mutual members. And our friend from Spill the Mead podcast, Maddie, who will be back in camera in a moment. She's going to be shooting archery today. So I'm bringing you something completely different that you've definitely never seen on my channel before, shooting things with arrows. So yeah. So so Adelheid, can you tell us about yourself a little bit and what led you to want to host this War of the Roses convention?
yeah, absolutely. Thanks, first of all, for joining me and going down this path with me, Rachel. I really appreciate that. This, my love for history has been around since I was very young, but I have been a member of the SCA since I was 18 years old. And I, continued down that path, learning more about various histories besides pre-17th century. But my love falls with the Wars of the Roses, and specifically, if anybody can guess it, Richard III, of course. So, I decided one day to take my love of cosplay, my love of history, and say, why not? Why can I not build a pop culture convention that is history based? You get some actual academic learning and then a big social atmosphere with a group of people who nerd out on the exact same things that you want to nerd out with. And
Right.
because of that, WarCon was born. And, I'm so excited that people are as interested in that period that you might not consider to be super popular, like the Tudors, of course. Everybody loves themselves the Tudors.
I
We can
know.
we can gripe about that on the side in just a little bit, but
Yeah.
but yeah. So that's kind of where it started from, and I really want to give America that awesome experience of learning and education that you often see across, the sea there, to provide it here for us as well, and get us up to date on what's very interesting about the medieval period, specifically the Plantagenets in this case, and the Wars
Right.
of the Roses.
Yeah, I have to say that the 15th century aesthetic has appealed to me from my earliest days, because I grew up in Delaware on the East Coast. And so I was surrounded by great museums with fantastic medieval collections, and we would go to them all the time, right? So I was going to the Walters Gallery, I was going to the Philadelphia Museum of Art, I was going to the Met, to the Cloisters, the National Gallery. Right. So I grew up immersed in what we now call Gothic art, but of course that's a slur, actually. So, War of the Roses is right in my wheelhouse. The 15th century for me is the best century of the medieval period, and it's the
The
last one,
one true,
really.
one true
Yeah.
century.
It's it's really, it's kind of, it is the end of the Middle Ages. In the 16th century, so much changes, not necessarily for the better, like people want to believe, actually. Um,
Sorry, Maddie, we're already taking pot shots at the Tudors.
No, hey, I was gonna see how long before it came up. I was gonna try to withhold. My bracer hides half of my Tudor rose tattoo, so I was gonna try to get away with it. But
yeah, the 16th century honestly just depresses me. It's such a backslide for so much of European civilization.
Yeah.
The Reformation is violent and ugly and is bad for women. Really, it's not. It is a downturn for women, for women's position in Europe, and it's really then that a lot of the really the heavy misogyny.
Oh, we lost Rachel.
I was gonna say lost you for a sec. I see you. Hi, Rachel. Audio though.
Yeah. Your audio's out. Oh no.
Oh no. And she's on
Keep
a roll
talking.
too. I was like, yep.
Yeah, keep talking.
Yep.
We'll talk for you. You're absolutely right that women took a downturn, and we can, I mean, there's a million different things, but let's take what is most popular culture right now, and we can just talk about Henry. He did not at all, in any way, shape, or form, help women's rights or women's positions in any way with his lovely divorcing and let's not even talk about the worst of the atrocities that he committed to our dear Saint Anne Boleyn. But yeah. It is it's certainly
it's
for being a
frustrating
Renaissance, right?
It is. It's frustrating because, just to go on my little Tudor rant, because I am new to the Wars of the Roses era, everybody. I'm kind of a free agent. I love hearing everyone's opinions because people have strong ones. And I'm like, ooh, I wonder who my favorite person's going to be. But in the Tudor period, it's frustrating because there was hope. There were women like Anne Boleyn who weren't royalty, but they were being educated well. There were other women like her too, where their parents were kind of like, our sons learn these languages. It had hope. It had hope. And that's almost all you can say about it, huh? Because, yeah, there were several step backwards there. But
FYI, everybody, Rachel is having a little bit of technical difficulty in the background with sound, so just give her a second. She'll be back. I'm not sure what. It's been an experience for us trying to get this whole thing started, so she might need a few minutes, but we'll try to keep it flowing for you. So
three different people in very different.
I want to introduce you, Maddie. I want to talk about you for a second. Like, yes. Maddie is one of the hosts of Spill the Mead podcast, which is this incredible premise. She stole my idea, I swear. She didn't even know it, but she stole it. No, I'm kidding.
We're very in sync, so I am honored, honestly.
Yeah, no, guys, you've got to go absolutely subscribe to their podcast. Oh, you're back.
Oh, there she is.
I was just giving Maddie some
back.
props.
It just I could hear you the whole time. I just couldn't hear me.
We couldn't hear you either.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, I was just introducing Maddie. I was telling your audience and my audience and her audience, just how wonderful of a premise that her podcast and her team's podcast is, which if you don't know and you don't know them, it is basically how I always will love to talk about history. You have one person who knows a whole bunch about something, whatever that little tidbit is, and then you have somebody who sits there and listens, knowing absolutely nothing about that particular piece of history, and then they chat it out, and it is one of the coolest concepts that I think a podcast could have because it's so interactive with each other. And at the moment when they're reacting, you're also reacting, and it's really cool. And I am super honored that we have you here with us too. So thanks for joining.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, I guess we're gonna try on live. Thank you. Wow. Remind me to Venmo you later. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. No, we're so excited. We're so excited to come to Wars of the Roses Con too. We're gonna try to get all of us, because like she said, I'm the main host on it, but I have five rotating co-hosts who all have different areas that they like and that kind of thing, and we're hoping all of us will be there in Maryland, and we'll be doing interviews and kind of doing press for the most part. And then at the end of it all, I'm going to choose a side of Wars of the Roses, because at this point, that's my role in the podcast. I have Coco, I have Chris. They are the experts of the Plantagenet era, and I'm staying ignorant on purpose so they can tell me on the podcast, and I can be
Oh, I'm gonna sneak in and drop my little tidbits here and there to try to sway you.
Yes. Oh,
there is really only one righteous side at the Battle of Bosworth. There really is. And the only reason that we don't talk about Henry Tudor as a traitor is because he happened to win.
I agree. No, I agree.
He was not the anointed king. Full stop.
No.
And his claim to the throne was so tenuous as to be almost barely perceptible. So, yeah.
I know Nathan. Yeah. Oh, and he deserved it. He deserved every ounce of paranoia that he had, because if we really want to kind of scoot back just a little bit, isn't it strange that the man who could have found the princes in the tower never actively did anything to find them? And you have to wonder, is that because you just didn't care to ever find them again?
Right.
Well, I mean, yes, of course he didn't want to find them, because then he'd have no more throne. He would not be the rightful ruler. I mean, I mean, there is something to be said for, well, then there would be another civil war most likely, and that wouldn't be good for the realm either. So some people would argue that he made the right choice in just forging ahead with try to solidify the position, because England at that point was pretty. It was not doing super well.
No.
So
much civil war.
Well, to be fair, it hadn't been doing well since Bolingbroke. I mean, it really that's where everything fell apart anyways, right? Like the minute that, what do they say? The minute that you kill, you commit regicide, you destroy your society and that's a fantasy based comment, but it's true though if you think about it. Like if you can kill a king, who can't you kill?
That's the thing.
That's true.
That moment that you have when you see that king laying there has to be that moment where everyone's like, oh, okay, he's human. There he is, bleeding like everyone else. It is. The psychology behind that is wild, because after you kill a king, it's over in seconds, debatably. But then everything that follows, it is. I always think about that moment when a king is fallen in battle, and that feeling of, oh God, the person that did it being like, did I just kill a king?
Well, if you're the Welsh, they're very proud of the fact that it took 10 of them to kill Richard III. But there's only like a couple of them that like to try to lay that claim. It's an interesting story actually that you said that you brought the killing of a king up, because the laying out of the body, the presentation of a king's body is the way that they said, okay, I've defeated him. Here he is. He's nobody now. And I'm now that somebody, right? And the idea of just what they did to Richard, which was strip him naked and then stab him in various places, particularly the buttocks, while he was on the back of a mule to traipse him back to Leicester. I mean, that's one of the most insulting things that you could do, not just to a king, but to anybody. And so it's really,
especially to a king who's literally fallen in battle. Like that is supposedly the glorious death, right? Like to die on the battlefield. And actually most knights, if they died, they didn't die on the battlefield. They died days later from their wounds. So actually it was a better death than he could have had. So, he actually had a clean battlefield death, and then to desecrate his body that way, especially with the, the beliefs, the funerary beliefs about, the body needing to go into the ground and be preserved for Judgment Day, that sort of thing. Like that's a statement.
Statement. A huge statement.
It's really incredible. Like the traditions and the legacy that gets laid out in period that we often forget how meaningful it is and what it meant to those people at the time. I mean, York, particularly in Leicester, they mourned when Richard died. It wasn't like they were dancing in the streets that Henry Tudor saved them from some evil monarch. They were very distraught that happened to him. So, and then imagine that you have these people who want to say, "Oh my God, you killed my king," but they can't say it because if you do,
yeah.
Mm-mm.
Well, the literal rewriting of history that happened very shortly thereafter, where they started amending chronicles and archival documents.
how he became
It's
king 2 days before Battle of Bosworth. Yeah,
right, exactly. It's like, wait, what? No. So just so that they could circumvent the whole discussion, the accusations of treason, because it's treason.
exactly.
Doesn't get
Hey,
more treason than that.
so I know that we're talking specifically about Richard right now, but I just want to mention that Dr. David Grummett is coming to WarCon, and he is one of the utmost authorities on the Battle of Bosworth that there is, and he's going to be speaking specifically on the battle, what tactics Richard should have used, could have used, why he actually lost the battle, and talking about the weapons, the combat, the style of fighting that they would have done. I think he's going to have a really interesting and a very big draw to the male crowd who might be interested in that battle, and the ladies, because I am totally interested in that.
I want to know. I want to hear all about were
It
there
it
archers? Tell me,
it's.
Dr. Grummett.
I mean, I'm. There were definitely archers at the Battle of Bosworth, and probably black powder as well. Most people don't realize that by the end of the 15th century, black powder weapons are they're there. They are on the field. The knights aren't shooting each other with handgunners, because handgunners are not what are like these giant like mini hand cannon kind of things. But still, it was a pretty explosive place. So yeah, there were archers, there was black powder.
They had period rifles. I mean, their period rifles at the time.
Yeah, those are the hand cannons, right? The handgunners. The Battle of Bosworth is very strange. It's one of the odder battles in history, because you have this faction that's sitting off to the side waiting to decide which side to join, right? You have Lord Stanley's men, and it's like,
and
Northumberland. That's
right,
so
like literally they're sitting there and they're watching to see which way the battle is starting to turn, and when they see it start to turn against Richard, then they decide, okay, we're for Henry, we're going to make sure this goes this way now. And that's
not proud of it, but yeah.
Maddie, don't be a Stanley. Don't be a Stanley, Maddie.
Do we not like Stanleys? Is that my first opinion? We don't like
there's a law that says that, if you're shady and shifty, you're a Stanley. You don't ever want to be a Stanley.
Oh, okay, no, okay. I retract my statement. I think I could pick a side if I was.
Well, and the crazy,
Duke of Norfolk coded, I will say, to sit back and see who's winning and schmooze that side. So yeah, Stanley to Duke of Norfolk, I think might be a lateral. It sounds like.
well, so the Duke of Norfolk in this area is 100% a Ricardian, right? He's a supporter. He was an Edwardian, right? He was Edward IV's man, and Edward IV created him a duke, right?
Yes.
Because before that, he's just Lord John Howard, or Lord Howard, rather, knight. So but Stanley, what fascinates me about Stanley is just how unemotional he is. Henry is his stepson.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, that adds a layer.
Henry is his stepson. His mother, Margaret Beaufort, is this Lancastrian princess, basically, right? And
okay. Well,
and he's sitting there.
He had a side then. It sounds like he had a side.
But he did not. But no, he did not join until he realized he was not going to support Henry until he realized it was going to work out for him.
Yeah.
He literally waited to see what direction it was going to go. I think really what made him change his mind was, Richard also had one of his, I think his nephew, if I'm remembering correctly, I think Richard, or maybe it was his son, had one of his sons, and he was like, I have another son. He didn't care.
Yeah, we don't love it. We don't love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. But
This
I
is why
think
I
he
need
waited.
Wars of the Roses con
I
to
think he
bring me
waited
up
till
on
more.
this.
I want to check that because I want to make sure I have that accurate. I might have that wrong. I don't want to misquote that. Stanley. Let me
I'm gonna
just double
keep
check that.
plucking not bullseyes out of here until
Yeah, y'all do that. I have to be accurate because it drives me crazy when I'm not. So I'm just gonna double check. Y'all keep talking. But it is a big deal that he had Richard had one of his relatives under arrest and ordered his execution. And it wasn't until that execution order that happened and Northumberland went ahead and moved away from Richard that Stanley was like, all right, this is done. I'm going to Henry. And I guess he made the right choice.
I
Well, clearly,
guess.
yeah.
Gosh, and
But
everyone just knew. Did everyone know it? Is this a hindsight thing, or did everyone know at the time? Like, there's Stanley's back there not picking a side, being shady, or
this isn't the first time that he's done it. He has done this multiple times over his career. So that's why Richard had one of his relatives in possession, was because he knew that Stanley was going to betray him. That Richard knew it was coming. Mm-hmm.
yeah. Yep. Nope. We don't like a Stanley. We make jokes in the podcast, like within the Catherine of Aragon series and the Anne Boleyn series. My co-host and I make jokes like, no, if I was part of the court, I for sure would wake up and be like, so you guys, are we Catholic today? I want to live, like let me know where we stand kind of thing. But God, no, that's not the times. The times back then, unless you're Stanley, it sounds like, were you pick a side and die by it kind of thing, and it's noble. That level of loyalty, love to see it. But
Yeah,
nope,
yes.
Stanley is on my
Stan,
list.
he's a pragmatist, and you know, he would definitely he would have done very well, as a mercenary. Honestly, he would have. It would have he would have been a great condottiero because they were also very shrewd. But the thing that people don't understand about condottiere is that mercenary is kind of like a dirty word now, like you're a merc, right? But it wasn't in the 15th century, and certainly not in the Italies. And the condottieri were known for being men of honor because they would always honor their contract. Always, always. If they had a contract with you, they abided by it because they knew it was good business. No one is going to hire you if they know you're not going to honor the agreement, right? So it's meanwhile, Lord Stanley's not a mercenary, and he has no problem dividing his loyalties as he sees fit. So isn't that an interesting irony that this knight, this English knight who's supposed to be all about loyalty and blah blah blah, is not? But these condottieri who aren't bound by those kind of oaths, but are instead bound by a legal agreement, a contract, are. Like how it's funny how the Victorian Romanticism has, they've romanticized the idea of the medieval knight, and how the medieval knight would just do anything for loyalty. And I'm not certain when exactly the word mercenary became a dirty term, but it wouldn't surprise me if that also happened during the Victorian era and that period of historiography.
Yeah, we have a group in the SCA, or Atlantia specifically, and it might be in a couple other regions or a couple other kingdoms, but they call themselves the Condottieri, and they're a rapier crew, and they really enjoy that sort of idea that they're the mercs, right? They're the mercenaries. So it's interesting that you brought that up. I was thinking to myself that how difficult it must have been for Richard, who prided himself on being the prince of princes and very, very chivalrous. And he actually had this code of conduct that he followed, that he had a book. And to the idea that he would be betrayed by somebody he held in such high regard like Stanley was probably absolutely devastating to him. I can't imagine.
Yeah, your stepdad? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. And I can't imagine that he didn't feel, like how could you be a knight and behave this way? Because Richard really definitely viewed himself as like what he wanted to be, the perfect knight, the premier of,
Yeah.
of chivalry, I guess, for lack of better
Yeah.
words. So yeah,
Yeah, no.
that's an aspect of it most people don't think about of him. They have that shrouded Shakespearean view of him and don't realize that he actually had in his book of hours or his prayer book rather, I'm so sorry, in his prayer book, like notes on how to be a good king and how to be a good prince.
Oh
And
gosh,
so
that rattles my soul. Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Richard, it is a shame. I would say that Richard is the last medieval king. Like
yeah,
Henry is this weird in between thing. Like Henry's the
yeah,
winter king, right? He's definitely still a medieval king, but
yeah,
it's under him that they start heavily moving away from the institutions that defined medieval England, like private armies get banned. Um,
yeah.
So I
Yes,
would say
he's
in my world, Richard is the last full on properly medieval king, and Catherine of Aragon is the last medieval queen.
preach,
Interestingly,
I
girl. I love that you
agree
just mentioned that.
so hard. I agree so hard.
it's
Henry he's not full Renaissance either. He's like medieval and a half.
right.
He's
It's a
right
transition,
there.
right?
Yeah. Oh,
But
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 you
but
just
Catherine
but
was
she
that
was she
queen.
was she was one, like, she leads armies.
yep.
She
Yes.
fully stands in as the regent when Henry isn't there, when he isn't able to do his part. She steps in 100%. She is his equal, right? They are a
Yes.
partnership.
I
and
was
and and
oh,
it's all the medieval institutions. Her household has a medieval setup, right? The way her household is governed, it's so medieval. And then after everything, every queen after that is not.
I think
Definitely
he was
not.
always trying to find another Catherine, and there was no other Catherine. I think that I'm in the part
so
that Henry genuinely did care for her. How could you not?
I
Catherine.
think you're 100% right about that. I mean, how could he? First of all, how could he not? But
How
you're.
could he not?
I think Anne could have been that. She was just too progressive for her time, and she's missing the thing that Catherine did have. And it's funny that you brought her up, Rachel, because I was just talking about her in my live on TikTok before
Mm,
we joined this. Somebody asked me who was my favorite Tudor queen, and I went Anne, and then I stopped and I said, no, it's actually Catherine.
yeah,
And the reason being is that she was literally put on this earth to be a queen.
yep,
Everything
that's it.
about her was trained, taught. She knew she was a queen, that she was always going to be a queen, and that was what it was. And I picked her as my favorite queen, and it's sort of tragic when I say this, but it's because imagine the absolute devastation that woman felt when Henry took the one thing away from her that
Yeah.
she was raised, born, and told that she was
Yeah.
supposed to be her
Yep.
entire life. And she was good at it and
After all
successful
of
at it.
that, after
And
all she went through, after how hard she fought and clung to it, and like, no, I am the queen. Yeah, no, it is. It's
but and what's crazy is what personal integrity she must have had, what inner strength to not give in to his demands, to not convert, right? To retain her faith to the end, despite having her daughter ripped away from her, you know, despite being isolated, despite being forced to live in penury, right? She still clung on to, no, I will not betray my faith. I will hold on to this to the end, but also I will be loyal to you to the end. You are my husband. I will love you until the day I die, no matter how horribly he treated her. I
oh,
mean, wow. Talk
that
about
last letter.
strength.
Yeah, no, it is so. You can't hear Catherine's story and not admire her every single thing. To that last fighting breath, every moment, a queen. Um, I do. Oh gosh, because I hate yeah, the phrase like my favorite of Henry's wives is hard, right? Because they're all different people. But gosh, Anne and Catherine, I think they are the two that I have done the most research on, but they just draw me to it because I have this theory, hear me out, that in the great beyond, whatever that looks like, the afterlife, whatever it may be, I really in my heart feel that Catherine was waiting for Anne there, and both of them were like, girl, I would have done exactly what you did if I was in your position. I don't think Catherine, if she would have been lady in waiting, she wasn't going to do that either. And if Anne would have been in her position, she wasn't going to back down. I think that they got up there and were both like, you know what? Well played. Like, we're not so different after all. There was religious differences there, but uh, I feel like they clicked. And when all was said and done, I can just picture Catherine being like, "You're here already after all of that. You're here weeks, months, but what's months if not weeks?
Yeah.
Weeks after I left this earth, he, like, what? It's just wild, wild."
Yeah, it's yeah.
We have a few people in comments saying some stuff, and so I just want to acknowledge them. Lottie made a comment that she really adores Catherine for riding into battle while pregnant. And Lottie, I just want to point out to you, Catherine absolutely did lead an army for Henry, but there's actually no evidence that she was pregnant and rode into battle. So just keep that in mind. That's from the Spanish Princess. It's fun and I love it. But keep that in mind, Catherine.
I'd never heard that she rode into battle pregnant. I didn't realize that was a myth going around. Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's from Allison.
Allison Ware?
No, Philippa. Philippa Lang. Philippa Gregory. Gregory. Sorry, Sorry, Philippa Langley. I had a moment there.
No, I'm sorry, Allison Weir too. It wasn't you. Philippa
it wasn't you.
She did a number on Anne's reputation throughout history. The most vile rendition of Anne Boleyn you will ever hear. Philippa Gregory's the other Boleyn girl. It is like unfathomably wicked. But yeah, nope. So that was in the Spanish. But she still led an army pregnant, and that is some queen. Like she was and won.
She absolutely not only here, this is actually the better part of the story, Lottie. This is actually the cooler part. She did lead the army, but what she brought back was a bloody coat from the general that she defeated and put it at Henry's feet. That is what's badass.
You know what's even more badass? When I did my research, because I have a Catherine of Aragon series out there, 13 hours and 7 minutes. It's very thorough. And what's even more badass is I read from Giles Tremlett, her one of her biographers, said that she wanted to send his whole body, and her advisors were like, that's too much. Just send the cloak kind of thing. And it's like, yeah, she wanted to just like, yep, haul him up, send him over there. I love it. And I'm like, Catherine, girl, I love to hear it.
If I were her, I would have just packed him in a barrel of salt and sent him. That's how they used to do it when they wanted to get, someone home from Outremer. So why not?
But Lottie, you're absolutely correct. She did lead a battle. She did lead an army into battle. She didn't go into the battle, to be fair. She was just was there, but she wasn't pregnant at the time. They would never have allowed her out of it being in confinement for that. And she absolutely was going to give the guy's head. That's actually what she presented. She said, "I'll take his head."
There it was. Okay, yeah, not full body of the head. Yeah, there it was. I remember them saying like, well, maybe just, let's tone it down a little bit. And I remember doing the research and being like, I mean, do we need to tone it down a little bit? I don't know.
I love that. Can you imagine the guy that she was talking to, the ambassador, who was like, maybe we shouldn't send a head. And she's like, why are you such a wuss? Send the head.
Yeah. But it's right here. Like, that is not, I don't understand. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, it's funny how many queens, certain queens, have been labeled the she-wolf of, blah blah blah. And I think because Catherine did not, rebel with violence against Henry, that she missed out on getting that moniker. but I think she was definitely her own kind of she-wolf. In fact, in my view, I know that the term used by medieval historians was supposed to be pejorative, but in my mind, it's a badge of honor. When some man calls me the she-wolf of so and so, thank you. That's very kind of you to say that. Thank you for
Oh
noticing.
yeah. I've always thought it was a positive thing. Yeah, no, I
It
like
is.
it. I like it.
Yeah, no, from the medieval, the contemporaries of the time, that was a slur, but
Oh.
Oh,
oh no, it was
I think
absolutely.
modernly, I think even
Be-
modernly, there's some misogynistic historians that also use it that way too. I
right,
would say,
right.
but you've got let we can just name two right off the top of my head, of course, and they'll be the ones everybody knows. But Margaret of Anjou and Isabella of France. Margaret, that woman gets a horrible rap, and she was nothing. I mean, she deserves none of the shit that she's given. I
Yeah,
mean,
none.
yeah, maybe she was a little bit of a dick there to Richard, Duke of York. But to be fair, he gave it back to her. So they had a genuine hate relationship. There was not like it wasn't her overstepping her bounds. She was freaking Queen of England. And he was a duke who didn't respect the boundaries that they had laid in place. Granted, was he probably the better ruler than Henry?
I mean, that's
1,000%.
that's a low bar. I mean, he's suffering from severe mental health issues, and even when he's not, he's more suited to the monastery than to rulership. Like it's not his personality. She was so unfortunate to have been married to Henry.
And she cared about him. She actually had
She
they
did.
actually had a good relationship, which is interesting, as far as we know, right? They had a pretty solid relationship. And all she was doing, I mean, I would do the exact same thing that woman did, which was defend her position, defend her now kingdom, and defend her son's right to rule.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
and she's portrayed as some evil beast when all she was doing was the right things. So
well, and here's the reality. If a man had done it, no one would have said boo. No
yep.
one. Exactly. If it had been, what's the male equivalent of Margaret? I don't know, but Mark. If it had been, if it had been Prince Mark doing those things, right, defending his son's right to inherit when he passes on, doing everything she did, leading armies, blah blah blah, no problem. What a great knight, what a guy, But oh, a woman's doing it. Oh well, that's unnatural. Women should not act unnaturally. So she's a she-wolf. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I think she was brilliant. She raised armies. She had people that supported her. She handled her business, the kingdom's business, while her husband was. Now, I will say that she did have some support with York there because he was protector at the time. So it wasn't like she did it all on her own. But and she had a council, of course. But
Well, I mean, no medieval ruler. This idea of the absolute monarch who just sits on the throne and does everything themselves is ridiculous. You can't run any government that way. None. You always have your people, right? It's all about how you manage your people, though.
yeah, no, absolutely. And of course,
Exactly.
we'll just mention we won't have to go super in depth, but let's just mention Isabella. She not only
Yeah.
she not only dethroned her own husband, she took a lover, said, "This is the guy I want. Forget this guy. I don't care about him anymore, king or not. This is my hottie over here," and did it with absolute
Yeah.
abandon. She didn't care. Gave no fuck.
Love it. Hey, love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but honestly, if I'd been forced, forced is it's the wrong word because it implies that like she refused to marry and she was forced to marry. There are no forced marriages in the Middle Ages. Consent is actually a very big deal to the church. But you're raised knowing that this is your destiny, right? A marriage will be made. You will be marrying a stranger. Marriage is not about romance. It's about
Nope.
dynastic relations. And so forced is definitely the wrong word, but she is married off to, Prince Edward, Crown Prince at the time, and comes to find out that he is not a ladies' man. He is it's how much he is, whether or not, whatever his actual sexual proclivities may or may not have been, he keeps company with a lot of young men, and
and gives them lots of money and lots of titles and lots
yep,
of things, and that's
yep,
fine. I mean, I could care less about that part, but I love that she was unbothered by it and was like, you know what, you can go do what you want to do. I'm
yep.
gonna go do what I want to do.
Yeah, that's how it works, right? Yeah, we're married.
But what this means is that there's some debate about whether how much mutual respect there may have been. Some people say, oh well, here's some evidence that there was actual mutual respect, or at least at times there was more respect and care than at other times. But at the end of the day, it kind of came out that he cared more about his favorite. Like, he basically started favoring his favorite above his queen. And
Yeah.
that's the turning point, in my understanding, that Isabel said, nope, done.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's
I
fair.
have
Like, you're putting up with a lot.
I have a son. We have an heir. You are now redundant.
Yes.
And people always talk about, oh well, she should not have had her husband imprisoned and possibly assassinated. She should have, she's stepping beyond her place. But they forget about the things she did while she was the regent, right? They don't look at the kind of policy she's put in place, the way she managed the kingdom, right? All of that gets forgotten in light of the scandal, which, by the way, everyone, that nonsense you've heard about how Edward II died is not true. It is not
Yeah.
true. It is not true. Just
It's a fun story, though.
it's a horrifying story, but it's not true.
Yeah,
They
I
actually
guess
think
fun story is not the best way to describe it.
yeah, it's fun. Ugh. It's tittillating.
There you go. That's a better way.
But in the most horrifying way you can imagine. And it's not true. What I've read is that he was just kind of left to starve to death. So I'm not certain it's a little better. Maybe it's still a pretty awful way to die.
Yeah, I mean,
Slow.
yeah. I mean, Richard. They starved Richard II too to death. Well,
Yeah, they did.
They think he did. And
Yeah.
it haunted Henry. It haunted Henry for the rest. Henry IV for the
Yeah,
rest of
for
his
the rest
life.
of his life. Yep.
So, yeah, I can't. But I guess it should. You murdered an anointed king.
Yeah, right.
Affect you if you're
Yeah,
super
maybe you
religious,
shouldn't.
right?
Maybe you shouldn't feel so good about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
totally.
Richard II was certainly not perfect. I loathe the way he handled the peasants' revolt, the Wat Tyler revolt. I thought that was just, I like, I resent him for that to this day. I'm like, you had a chance to be a great king, to actually address the needs of your people instead of your barons, and you didn't, you asshole. Right?
Yep. He basically,
Like,
I just did a TikTok on this actually, and he pretty much went, oh yeah, let's settle this. Everything's fine. I'm going to take care of you. And then within 2 weeks, psych, nope, here you go.
yep.
We're doing it this way. I mean, it was that fast.
It was really, it was, I resent him to this day for that. So still haven't forgiven him. Because there was a chance, there was a real opportunity there for him to be a great king, because he'd already introduced so many new concepts. He's the first Renaissance English king, honestly. He's a big patron of the arts, of poetry, of music, of dance. He is focusing on making the court a gentler, more, I'm not going to say kinder, a gentler, more creative place, gentle in the medieval sense, not in the modern sense.
Beautiful, more beautiful place.
Exactly. And so with that, I feel like, hearing the needs of the majority of your people who are suffering poll taxes, I mean, really, and actually responding to that and making life better for them, that would have just been like the perfect match to this other artistic side. And instead, nope, that's not how we're going to do it.
Yeah. Well, hey, if you don't mind, I just want to take like a second and say thanks everybody for joining us. We are here chatting away like the biggest nerds that we could possibly be, and I love it so much. But we're here to promote WarCon. If you haven't heard of it, please consider going to wotrcon.org and checking it out. Check out Maddie's Spill the Mead podcast. And of course, everybody loves all of the Creative Contessa's content and teaching us how to be more refined ladies of the court. I am greatly appreciative of that. But all of this stuff that we're talking about is absolutely going to be subject matter that happens at WarCon, because we are kind of rolling through various stages of the Plantagenet period in England. And that is what the con is about, is the Plantagenets this year really focused on the Wars of the Roses, because I wanted to bring together the people who really loved that time period and had a lot of respect for the 15th century, and maybe pull over some of those Tudor nerds who think that the Tudors are the only dramatic period in history when we have 300 years of nothing but drama. I mean,
seriously,
we could start out just by setting the stage for the founders of drama, that I like to call them, Henry II and Eleanor of Aquitaine, who literally were constantly in a marriage feudal match with each other at every available opportunity. And
they really were. It's funny, every time I swear to God, so every time I think about Henry II and Eleanor of Aquitaine, I always imagine, A Line in Winter. Like it's always Katharine Hepburn and her co-star, and that just makes it even better because that is exactly the way I imagine this tempestuous match from the very get-go, right? It is for those of you who are not familiar with the history of Henry II and his queen Eleanor of Aquitaine, you absolutely need to check out their story. Their trajectories, neither of their trajectories are normal, and hers is especially extraordinary. She's a queen. She marries the King of France. They go on crusade. She has an affair with her uncle, and she's like, "Yeah, nah, I'm done with this guy. He's too much of a religious geek. He's definitely not my type. I come from Aquitaine, where the land of the troubadours and of courtly love, and this guy is a dud." And so she divorces him. I mean, it's it's like in the 12th century, she divorces the King of France.
That's so bad.
And says, this guy looks like he's going to do better. Let's go pick up this guy over here. And that's Henry.
Right. Yeah. And Henry's like 10 years her junior. He's younger than she is. Right.
Yeah.
She marries this hotshot Duke, Fred, he's a Duke of Anjou, right? She marries this hotshot Duke, freshly knighted. And she's like, yeah, I've got new pastures coming my way. Right. And he's, so he becomes the king.
All of a sudden, Uncle Stephen just keels over. And so here we are. Now we're king. So, that's just a bonus. I was going to mention, everybody was really excited talking about Catherine of Aragon riding into battle and doing her badassery that she did. But Eleanor actually rode into battle into the Crusades as well. And she led an army down into the Crusades. Now, we don't know how far. We're not 100% certain how deep she went into there, but we do know that she actually led an army. Yeah, so she did it too, and it's pretty awesome. So
that's, oh my gosh.
Yeah. So for those who heard the word WarCon, not war like the Second World War, war like WOR, War of the Roses. Just to be clear, War of the Roses
absolutely.
Con. Yeah.
Not to confuse anybody.
Yeah, so the War of the Roses convention is happening in Baltimore in Lithicum next February, and I, ladies and gentlemen, yours truly, have been hired to enrich the experience with some super wonderful, fun, and authentic War of the Roses era dancing. So I will be there. There will be a host of amazing top block speakers lecturing or speaking on various aspects of the Wars of the Roses. There will be classes on tailoring and fashion. There'll be, the bellicose side of the affair. And what else am I missing out on? Of course, there's one big one.
We're going to have combat. We've got combat demonstrations showing, and they're actually going to be a knight and squire session, teaching the squire how to be a knight and do the actual combat style that they would have used during that period. We also, the one thing that everybody is super excited about is the medieval mashup ball that Rachel will be teaching a dance class before the ball to instruct us on what a proper dance etiquette would be and dances for that. And then the mashup ball will be a mix of modern music dashed in with period music because, there's nothing like apple bottom jeans and boots with the fur in full Tudor garb, just for the record. But we want people to have a good time and really get to relate and socialize. And that's the idea behind that. And then also get the history as well, with Rachel doing intermittent dances too. And there'll be some hors d'oeuvres. There's a bar that you can go and get drinks, because cocktails often, if you feel like imbibing, do make a good social atmosphere usually. And, the hotel has nice rooms for you to stay at and enjoy staying over for the weekend. And I just want us all to get to know each other and be able to see us interact on all these social media platforms and be like, I know her, I talked to her, she's really cool, that's Maddie from Spill the Mead, oh my god, that's the creative Contessa, and really have those moments, and hopefully we get to do this again and bigger and better next year.
Yes. Oh gosh, yes. Hopefully we never stop. And this is the first one. Don't you want to say that you went to the first one ever?
Back in its origins, right? I was there at the
Yeah.
very first one, and it's our little hotel convention, and now we're in this great castle somewhere, right? Like that's the goal.
Dreaming big, yeah. That is the ultimate goal. Is one day I'd love for us to be able to tell you that we're hosting at an amazing event, but we can't do it until we get registrations and get this one off the ground first, and show the rest of the world that this is a serious convention and that we are excited and really want to bring some academia with a good dose of social fun, and everybody have a great time and learn something while doing it.
It is. It's going to be the way that it all rolls too. I love how it opens up on Friday with like the dance, and like we get to learn. Rachel's YouTube videos taught me how to piva, and it's not too bad.
Nice.
And so we'll get to learn
Nice.
things like that. And then after that, we like roll into like, okay, now let's learn about Wars of the Roses Con with all of, gosh, it's such a great variety of things too. Oh, the talk on Eastern Europe and how that ties into Wars of the Roses too. Like there's so many just niche things that you get to hear from people who are experts on it. I don't know. It's so exciting to me.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, Maddie. I should have said that. So we have a Dr. Anna Ingleson, who honestly, I'm going to give her props on this. She was the first person, the first speaker to contact me and say, I want to speak at this event. And I was like, wow, hello, Dr. Ingleson. Yes, I would be happy to talk to you. And she came with presentation about how simultaneously, while the Cousins War is happening in England, it's also happening on the opposite side of in Eastern Europe. The same thing is happening, but with people we've never heard of, because we don't get that, we don't have that tie-in to that piece of the world as much. And so I cannot wait to hear how they I think the tales actually cross with Perkin Warbeck at some point, which doesn't surprise me at all. So I can't wait to hear the whole story. I think that's going to be really fascinating.
So I'm gonna pause. There's a good question. Is there a website for War of the Roses convention?
Yes, it's WOTRCon.org. Absolutely. And
yeah,
you can check it out.
It's going to be a great time. Starts Friday evening or afternoon, goes until Sunday afternoon. Yes, I believe.
Yep. Sunday afternoon. And you get served lunch on Saturday as part of your ticket, hors d'oeuvres on Friday night, and breakfast and snack breaks throughout the day on Saturday and Sunday as well.
Nice.
So Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
That's
so
all
it's
even so
included.
there's
Like
even
that's
some food
all it's
included, which is pretty great. Yeah.
that is
yeah.
really, really, really incredible. Because, gosh, you think we're going to the Ohio Ren Fair in October. It's a big one, and the tickets they're like $90, and then
Holy
you pay.
shit. What?
It's a lot.
Oh
Maddie, are
my
you serious? When in
It's
October? When are you going?
October 5th. Why?
October 5th. I don't know because
Why?
I was thinking because I have adult money, ma'am, and I can
I
get on
have
a plane.
I have adult money.
October 5th. I
But
think it's
$90 for a
when
day?
I looked, it was like 80 or 90. Oh gosh, now with your reaction, I'm kind of second guess myself. It was up there. And
Oh, I know.
that's
I
for
mean,
one day. And
I
then you
don't I know nothing about how much Renaissance fairs cost because I've only attended now one in my lifetime. So
for a
I
big,
have
big one like
I have
that,
Yeah,
that's
it
no
is a
not
frame of
really
reference.
twice.
it's one of the larger ones in the country. It's not as
Yeah.
big as Baltimore or
Right.
Texas's, but it's a good size one.
It's a
But
good
Does
size. And that's
it's
a lot.
it's a
You
lot.
pay to go in there, and then you're also like you're buying your food, you're buying all your
Yeah,
stuff.
I was
I
gonna
have to
say,
like
does that
budget for
include food?
winter.
Does that include food?
No, no, no,
No,
no.
Holy
you're
freaking, oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
you're straight up paying.
Wow.
You
You're
get like
paying
all of
like
the
Wow.
yeah,
performances and the atmosphere, Rim Fair people were like,
yeah.
yep, love it kind of thing. But gosh, when you break that down into Wars of the Road for 3 days, food included is so like, and
Oh wow.
that's really, that's very
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
nice.
So everyone, I'm going to go ahead and address this which fair we're talking about, the Ohio Renaissance Fair, I believe, aren't we, Maddie?
That's what I was
Oh,
talking about. Yeah,
yeah.
someone
Okay.
do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you are correct, I
Yeah.
can't see the comments on here, which is probably good with how bad my shots have been. Sorry. But
I
if
was
you say
impressed.
if you have knowledge on that and know the actual price, please do drop it because I'm curious. I looked a long time ago, but I remember thinking like, oh, okay. Again, to me, it's to be expected. It's something like that, but no food included. Like it does the
Right.
breakdown of
And
everything. Like that is a nice to have that peace of mind, like,
so
oh, we have this
yeah,
whole conference, we have to leave now and go, like you have that option. That's so great for those of us who are going to
I
be there the entire time. Just
right.
love it.
I definitely prefer an all-inclusive package like that because
Yeah,
otherwise I'll forget to eat. Like at any
I can second.
medievalist anything, especially if I don't have damsels there taking care of me and handing me a glass of water, like putting it in my fingers and saying drink.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will forget to do things like that. So,
yep, yep.
so everyone, I'm going to just address this right out the gate because it has been a point of contention. So tickets are $210 question
They're
mark.
250. They're 250.
250,
Yeah.
right? Okay, 250. Okay, so they're $250, and everyone who, especially people from certain living history groups, go, "Oh my God, $250 for a weekend." Okay, but we have to pay for the venue, so it's a convention center. It includes some of the meals, and you can't cook your own food, unlike certain other event sites where you can, have a volunteer cook team make the food
Yeah.
without being paid for it. Right. But also, we have to pay for these experts, right? We're having experts brought in. They do this professionally. We're not talking about volunteer teachers. These are academically credentialed experts in the field. You have to pay those people. So this is, if you want to get fresh perspectives rather than the perspectives from the same people you're usually hearing them from, maybe in your local SCA group or whatever, this is a chance to do that. But these aren't volunteers. So what if you just hear what we just said, $90 for a day at the Ohio Renaissance Fair, or
Gotcha.
$250 for 3 days, which includes a good, a decent amount of food. It's not overpriced. I know conventions where you pay $100 and that gets you nothing. You can walk in the door for a day
A day.
at
Yeah,
that
one
price.
day. Oh, yeah,
One
that's
day.
very, yeah. Well, and a thing that I really loved too, because gosh, and you don't think about it unless you're a seasoned convention expert, but it's nice because it's somewhere where you can spend all day there because we have the social room. Spilled Me will be there. We're gonna have fun stuff going on all day on all of the days. And so you have a place to go, you know, if you're like, oh, I'm waiting for this speaker, what do I do? There is a whole area of vendors and like places where you can go, so you're not stuck in a hallway or you're not waiting outside or like walking around, you know. I love that part, just being around people that are passionate about the same thing, and you're hanging out and talking about like, oh, are you waiting to hear Philippa Langley? Me too. Do you think she's going to talk about, like, I don't know, I can
By the way, I don't think we
the
talked about that, actually. I didn't mention that.
Yeah, we haven't. The big one, the
Yeah,
big one.
Yeah.
So we have kind of glossed over that a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, first of all, I just want to say, you know, anybody who has questions about the cost of the convention, I'm not going to go into like super details of contracts and stuff, but I have done my very best to keep this cost as minimal as possible for everyone, because this is the first year and I want it to be successful. And like Rachel said, we have guests that are coming all the way from England, and those come at a price. And one of those guests, while that person cannot physically be with us, she will be with us via Zoom in a giant auditorium, and you will be able to speak with her one-on-one, ask questions to her. It will be Philippa Langley. And if anybody is, if you know anything about Wars of the Roses and you know anything about Richard III, that name should at least start ringing a little bit of a bell, because she is the woman who we can say found Richard III's body. And she also has now wrote probably the most conclusive that we can find currently evidence about the Princes in the Tower's survival, and the fact that they actually absolutely probably survived. Now, of course, I'm putting on my own twist there, but she is going to be speaking and doing 2 sessions. She is going to do a session about Richard and the princes, and then do an entire question and answer session where you can throw any questions at her you want about Richard, about the Princes in the Tower, and she is prepared to answer them for us. And so I think having access to the kind of knowledge and skills that she has is absolutely incredible.
That's insane. Oh my gosh. Yeah, to be able to ask her questions and have her address your it blows my mind. Like,
yeah. And Takeda really, Takeda's one of my patrons and really loyal followers. Takeda says it really well. He says, you know, yeah, are there options to have fun for less? Sure, but this kind of convention is on a different level. And, you know, if you want quality, you have to pay for it. So, you know, this is not anyone who thinks that the organizers are going to get rich from running this convention. The organizers are going to be happy to just break even. Seriously, like just break even.
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
actually pay to host the convention out of their own pockets, right? This is not, you do not, if you want to make money on conventions, you do not do a War of the Roses convention. That is not the money maker.
Yeah, that's not really hitting the big budgets there, is it? No. And
it's
to be
passion. It's a passion.
Yeah, to be fair, you guys, I mean, I'm kind of an open book about this. I'll talk to anybody about it. First of all, thanks to everybody who says that they think that's a reasonable price for the convention. I thank you very much for that.
Appreciate it.
But please spread the knowledge about that's the biggest hurdle and obstacle that the convention has right now, is getting the word out about it. So any shares, likes, anything you can do to help us promote this event, we would be so appreciative of that. And we want to grow and be bigger next year. I have such big ideas for this convention and where it can go.
Yeah, let's talk about some of those ideas, because that could be incentive. You support us this year, and then next year we can bigger, better with more medieval fireworks, right? Like,
yes, exactly. Like, imagine, you guys, a full presentation of medieval feast, and you getting to walk in and be heralded in full garb to a high table where you get to be the, main event for the evening. That's just one of the many things that I hope to accomplish eventually for WorkCon. A full night of a real ball where it's thematic, and Rachel leads us all in dance, and we get to hear amazing music with actual, period
Musicians. Yeah.
and
Oh,
exactly. I mean,
Yep.
that's where we're headed, and hopefully where we can go for sure.
And you know what? So I was just, as I do, I was reading the most exciting literature of the 15th century, the household expense of Lord Howard, the Duke of Norfolk, and I actually found,
good.
I know, very exciting. Let me tell you, people mock me, but it's a way to rifling through people's expense accounts is like peeking in their windows,
Thank
right?
you. Oh, I love an
It,
inventory list so
oh my
much, and that's
God,
such an
so.
unpopular opinion. I
It
love
is.
it.
It is. Nope.
I
A
love it.
popular opinion. Best literature of the 15th century are expense accounts. And what I found is from 1472, an entry for payment to master so and so. I don't remember what his name was. He doesn't matter. But what he did does matter. For the disguisings at Twelfth Night. Disguisings is the 15th century English word for a mask. A mask is not a masquerade. I want to clear, there's no evidence of masquerades in the medieval period. Sorry. Masquerades are a modern thing.
Womp womp.
But what a mask is a performance that is danced and sung with people in costumes depicting something. And this particular entry in the expense accounts lists all of these fascinating materials that I'm pretty certain it's a material list for how to make a 15th century mask. There's loads of paper. There's lots of gold leaf, lots of silver, like 3 pounds of glue. And so I'm pretty certain, right? I'm pretty certain that these are for masks and also for sets. So they were making masks and sets out of paper and gold, real gold and silver, by the way.
Yeah.
And glue. And so that's like, and the other thing is that people don't realize that these disguisings in the 15th century were usually not performed by professionals. They were performed by the nobility themselves. They're the ones who are out there dressing up like wild men and catching on fire and dying a horrible death.
I was just about to say, apparently this was a successful mask because other ones in the past did not end well.
Did not end well. Those poor, the poor peers of France, man, those men died horrible deaths because they didn't die there. They died of their wounds, their burn wounds, like 4 days later. It was, terrible. But
I think it was Charles, right? The prince the only reason he survived. Because the princess put him out with her skirts, right?
Yeah, the queen, his aunt, who's like probably 26, put him out with her dress. Yeah, and Charles of Orleans. So he actually survived. His burns weren't that bad, but the others, because they were wearing these wild men costumes made of grass and tar. Yep. And they
torch.
and they were chained, they were tied together by a rope because of the performance. Yep. And so the fire literally ran down the rope from person to person, and it just like bonded to their skin. Oh, real bad.
Oh,
the fire
there's how long did it go, like when people hit that moment of like, this isn't part of it, this is bad, people are
this is not exactly chaos. Right. At first, everyone's like, wow, special effects. And then they're screaming, and you're like, oh, not a special effect.
I don't think they caught on. They didn't catch on until part of the like tapestries and fabric also started to catch on fire as these guys are running around trying to get the flames off their bodies.
Yeah,
so,
it is unfortunate when you're depicting wild men and you're running around wildly. Yeah, it was a horrifying 1389 that happened. Really, really horrifying. I mean, it's so horrifying that they're still talking about it and illustrating it at the end of the 15th century. So yeah, it's so masks can go very wrong if you don't take the appropriate safety precautions. But yeah, this expense account, I was like, oh my God, this for those of you who are into historical costume and documentation, here's documentation for the materials to make a 15th century mask, right? That's just
that's
awesome.
I lose
so
it
awesome.
over that kind of thing. Yeah, and how many yards of each material too. You start to paint this picture of what what it would
Well,
have looked like.
so what was fascinating is that in the list of the materials for the disguising, there's no cloth. It's it's all paper and glue and metal and some thread there's some thread. They call it a specific kind of thread, a kind of thread I'd never heard of before. No cloth at all. So it is literally, we're looking at a list for literal costumes, actual proper costumes in the modern sense of that word. Of this is not something someone's going to wear. It's only meant to look good on the performance, and that's it. Right? It's not meant to last very long. It's not meant to survive or, be handed down through the ages. So it's just, yeah, just really, 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 that was interesting because, everyone's like, oh, well, masks, we don't know what they were made of. Well, they could be made of leather. They could be made of cloth. And I'm sitting there going, mm-mm. Like literally the preschool construction materials are what they're making there. Making their masks out of. Yeah. So we are really, and that's something we could bring to a future War of the Roses convention, right? Like a 15th century mask making workshop where we use the materials that I found in the Howard household accounts to make masks that you see depicted in 15th century illuminations. Like that's something that we could totally offer, for instance. And then that evening have people wear them at the ball, right? Like how cool would that be?
That would be amazing. I just realized I'm technologically apparently slow at this point in my life. And just look at all the comments that we have going on here, guys. That's great. I'm so happy that everybody's so invested. That's really cool. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Oh, yeah. For those, I'm sorry, I should have told you ladies how to use your Restream. If you click on the little comment box that looks like a little box with text writing in it, that'll show you the comments. You can see the comments.
I just found it. I'm brilliant, of course.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Unfortunately, it only for right now through the software we're using, we can only see YouTube. We can't see any of the other platforms. I don't know why,
well,
but there it
I'm
is.
over here checking out Instagram on my side. So
oh, great. Okay.
So I'm answering any questions over here, but I can't see Facebook at all. So if anybody's commenting on Facebook, sorry guys, it's not that I'm ignoring you. I just can't get to you.
I apologize to my Facebook and Twitch people. For some reason I can't see your comments. If you're making them, I appreciate it. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, me too. Sorry. And then we'll have to figure out how to get TikTok to work eventually, or you guys join TikTok and we'll do a live together over there on TikTok
on
as well.
A separate thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, well, I can hear that Maddie's phone is starting to get whiny, so it's starting to overheat. Yeah. So I'm just going to. Yeah. So I'm going to tell everyone that this was just kind of a test run. Actually, we're going to try to turn this into a more regular series where we get together, we work on some medieval stuff, and we talk about War of the Roses history, and it can be a Q&A. So if you've enjoyed this session with my friends, if you've enjoyed all of us together in our various platforms, please let us know, and we will definitely make certain that we do this more often. So for now, I think we're going to sign off because Maddie's phone is about to explode, I think, from overheating. That's what that terrible sound is. Yeah.
I think Takeda, you have a channel. It's on TikTok. That's Duchess Adelheid. Just FYI for everybody, the Wandering Duchess. You can find me there. And Maddie left us, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think her phone. It gets hot, and apparently that's what it sounds like when it gets hot. It whines a lot. So I think I wasn't joking when I said I think her phone's about to explode.
I do not want her to explode with metal pieces and glass in her face for any means.
Right. I think she needs to go put it. She needs to go put it in the freezer, really, and I'm not kidding. So we
I had a great time. So thank you so much again, Rachel, for hosting us. I really appreciate it, and thanks everybody for coming and hanging out with us. It's been awesome.
Yeah, we appreciate you all. Thank you. And, I will be doing, as usual for my people, I will be doing my usual medieval sewing party live streams this weekend. So stay tuned for more fun, everyone. We appreciate you all. Have a lovely morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Stay creative, guys. Bye.
Ciao.